Right, we're now live, Chair.
Okay. Uh, but basically, can I just introduce myself? My name is Javed Akhtar. I chair this meeting in a Northwest Community Committee, but also can I make attendees aware when the meeting goes live and is being webcasted. An icon will appear, which as it does at the moment, it will be red. So the member of the public will be watching yourselves. The Inner Northwest Community Committee covers Headingley, Hyde Park, Little London, and Woodhouse and Wheatwood Ward, and is a committee where ward councillors have an opportunity to discuss and make decisions about services and priorities for our local area, and also consider funding applications regarding local communities, projects, and youth activities. I would like to start the meeting by confirming today's community meeting meets the requirement for council constitution, even though members are in remote attendees, and that members of all publics are able to view the meeting via the live webcast. As we begin the meeting, could I ask all attendees to mute their microphones unless I invite them to speak? This will avoid any disruptions from the background noises. Should a member wish to speak or ask a question, please use the raise hand facility to attract my attention. Also, can I in order to avoid any disruption in the meeting, should I lose internet connectivity, I propose we appoint a vice chair, Councillor Abigail Marshall-Katang. Are we all happy with that? Okay. I did take the vote, didn't I? And you all agreed to it, yeah? Yeah, okay. Could I now invite members and the officers to introduce themselves and mute your microphones once you have introduced yourself. I'll start with Councillor Kaylee Brooks.
Hello, Councillor Kaylee Brooks, Little London and Woodhouse Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Abigail Marshall-Katang.
Good evening, Abigail Marshall-Katang, representing Little London, Woodhouse and the City Centre.
Councillor Garthwaite.
Hello, Councillor Al Garthwaite, Headingley, Hyde Park and part of Woodhouse Ward. I'd also like to say that I'm not going to mute my microphone because I'm having a lot of trouble with my iPad at the moment and it's not obeying the signals that I give it. So I can tap for quite a long time and then fail to mute or fail to unmute. And I know that I will be wanting to speak early on in the meeting. So I'm going to keep very quiet.
Okay, yeah. As long as there's no background disruptions. Councillor Jonathan Pryor.
Evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Pryor. I'm one of the Headingley and Hyde Park councillors.
Councillor Neil Walshaw.
Evening, folks. Councillor Walshaw, Headingley and Hyde Park Ward.
Councillor Chris Howley.
Hello, Chris Howley, Councillor for Wheatwood Ward.
And Councillor Christine Knight.
Hello, Christine Knight, Councillor for Wheatwood Ward.
Mercia Cunningham.
Hello, everybody. I'm the Localities Officer for the Inner Northwest area for the council.
Andy Booth.
Hello, Andy Booth from Governance Services, and I'll be the clerk to the Community Committee this evening.
And we also have a guest visitor, Liz Jermyn. Liz?
Hi. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Liz Jermyn, Head of Stronger Communities.
Right, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Can I now move on to the business? Can I move the item number 1?
Right, thank you, Chair. Under agenda item number 1, we've not got any appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Under item number 2, there are no items which require the exclusion of the press and public. Under agenda item number 3, there are no late items of business. There has been some supplementary information relating to agenda item 8, the finance report, which has been published and circulated to members. Under agenda item number 4, could I ask members if they have any disclosable pecuniary interest to declare? No. And under agenda item number 5, we've got apologies for absence submitted on behalf of Councillor Bentley. So that takes us to agenda item number 6, the open forum, which is being handled a little differently for the remote meeting, and we've invited written submissions from members of the public. We've got 3 different submissions to read out tonight, Chair. Would you like me to take them one at a time?
Please, yeah.
Right. The first one we've got is from Sylvia McClellan, and there's a few points. And she asks if there are any plans for dealing with broken glass and graffiti around the Ash Road area, if there are any plans to start charging students council tax due to the continual amounts of rubbish left, and also regarding the possibility of parking permits for residents who live around the stadium area.
Sure. Does any of the ward members from Headingley and Hyde Park wants to come in? So Al's wishes to speak. Yes, Al.
Yes, regarding the broken glass, if she reports it, we as councillors will ask the cleansing team to come and remove it, as indeed they have done some recently. The universities do ask all their students to be responsible citizens in a number of different communications, written, social media, and they repeat this. But of course, this may not be students who are causing the broken glass problem. We agree it's a menace, and it could be some other people, but report it is the answer, and we will see that it is cleared up. Regarding graffiti, there was an anti-graffiti group meeting in that area, and it will be meeting again once it's possible to do so. It's not the time of year for painting out, cleansing and murals, but when it is, we're certainly looking at that. I quite agree that that is a complete menace. There is a number of street art legal walls that have been set up both in the area and along the riverside, and they are increasingly being used by those who wish to do street art as opposed to just tagging. The police do what they can, and a few people have been arrested. They are not necessarily local, they come from quite a wide area, and we all wish that they would not. But you also have to get permission from the house owner, or in the case of a landlord, to actually clean the wall, and that can be a time-consuming business. And you then have to paint on anti-graffiti paint. But we are looking at it very seriously. Regarding council tax, this is a national government issue. It's not something that as councillors we can change and make students pay it. And as regards parking permits, we want to revisit this when we can have a meeting in person and talk to residents in person. The local community group has discussed it in detail and found that there are very, very varied points of view. It's a very controversial issue, and it's not that everyone is thinking the same way. And there are a lot of different ways of having parking permits, whether it's just for 2 people in a household or more than that, or it's restricted to certain times, or it's when the matches are on, all sorts of things. So we do need to have a much more general consultation, and this we will do. But again, now is not really the time for that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Just if I can just remind members, you only have 10 minutes, so keep it short. But obviously, it was very detailed, which is very good. I'll really appreciate. So surely that we got 2 more questions, or the members' concerns. So within 10 minutes, if you can wrap it up, if that makes sense. So yes, carry on, Andy. Unless Jonathan or Neil wants to add in anything. No. Okay.
No. Okay. The next submission was from Sam Mustafa. Their questions are: what can be done to deal with antisocial behaviour from houses in multiple occupations and flats? It goes on to say that landlords do not enforce action, the universities don't take effective action, and the Leeds antisocial behaviour team is being overwhelmed. And it finishes by saying resident health and well-being is suffering.
Okay. Does anybody want to
take this one?
Yes,
Chair?
yes, Councillor Brooks.
yeah, there's a lot of work going on, a lot of collaborative work going on between the universities, student unions getting involved as well, and the council obviously, and the police. So, but because there's been quite a lot of work, and with the pandemic, it's definitely, shall we say, inflamed the issue with everyone sort of living on top of each other. But we've, as you'll know, Chair, we've got a full meeting tomorrow to look at what's been done and take some questions and some suggestions as to what can be improved on there. So that's tomorrow on Zoom, and hopefully residents will appreciate that full update rather than a few minutes update.
Sure. Anybody else?
Can I come in on this?
Jonathan?
Yeah,
Yes,
I think Kaylee's absolutely right. Like, there has been an uptick of this over the pandemic. I think obviously that is probably partially down to kind of bars being closed, so people staying in their homes. I know that LASBAC do liaise with the universities a lot. The universities are funding additional patrols in the area. I mean, this doesn't mean to say kind of the problem will just vanish overnight, but we do really welcome that the universities are working on this. And I think it's important to reassure residents that every week there are fines, there are fixed penalty notices given out, there are warnings given out to noisy households. This doesn't mean to say that there aren't still issues. Of course there aren't, but a lot of it is being tackled. And I would say any resident that has a persistent issue from a particular, and I know there are different types of noise nuisance, so obviously some of it is just kind of like a random house, but if you have a persistent problem from a neighbour, you can obviously get noise monitoring equipment in your house that can kind of really kind of like get a proper view of how antisocial kind of maybe one house is being, and I would urge anyone to get in touch with their local councillor if that's something you were interested in. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
And Councillor Abigail Marshall-Katung.
Yeah, thank you to Kaylee and Jonathan for adding that. And just to add to what Kaylee has said regarding the Zoom meeting, it's at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. So if there's anyone that would like to join the meeting and they have not received an invite, please just send us an email and we can send out the Zoom link for you to join us tomorrow evening from 5 till 6 p.m.
And I think that's something that the ward members from Headingley and Hyde Park, if one of you want to join as well, or all of three of you want to join, because we are on the borderline, and the area that we will be discussing, it will affect your area as well. So you're more than welcome to join us here tomorrow. Is there anybody else wants to say anything on this matter? If not, swiftly, can we move on to the third statement, please?
Thank you, Chair. The final submission tonight is from Yaqub Ahmed. Just before we go into it, we've had a number of submissions on this topic, which is the Hyde Park low traffic neighbourhood. So the points raised are: the introduction of the low traffic neighbourhood has come at great detriment to the well-being of the community and is detrimental to emergency response time. Thorough and effective consultation is required for such radical changes, not via a website. Not everybody's needs have been considered. The local MPs have not been considered, and there has been a petition of over 1,000 signatures to reverse the changes.
Okay, again, this is a Headingley and Hyde Park issue, and Neil, I think you wanted to say something.
I do, yeah, thank you, Chair. So yeah, there's been a fair amount of correspondence regarding the active travel neighbourhood. I think I was coming from a good place in wanting to reduce rat running. We're facing a lot more car traffic as COVID restrictions lift, but people aren't using public transport yet. They want to make safer spaces in our streets, reduce congestion, reduce pollution in residential areas. But we had a lot of commentary from this. Myself and Councillor Pryor have already been out and done a walking tour of the situation. We're looking at what's working and what's not. We're reading very closely all the commentary from residents, who particularly those who live in the area, were most directly affected, and businesses as well. So we're looking at that. We've got meetings upcoming with highways to see what needs to be amended. We particularly looked at things such as the Royal Park barriers and the Alexandra Road barriers. However, I would say to folk, there was a 2 to 3 month lead up to of consultation and legal work that went into the active travel neighbourhood going in. Whilst it won't be that long to make any amendments, it isn't simply a case of a couple of members of staff from the council coming and quickly shifting stuff. These are legal traffic orders and they have to be amended and changed in the right manner. But any change we make would be a lot quicker than the 2 months to go in. I would say to folks still concerned, keep in touch with us as your councillors. Use the Connecting Leeds website for commentary. That's still open. It is a trial. Yeah, and we are certainly listening to all the comments that are coming in. Thanks very much, Chair.
Can I add something as well, because it affects our residents in London and Woodhouse too, and I, along with my colleagues, have picked up a lot of concern from our local residents, because by stopping the traffic at your neck of the wood, you're basically now our residents are now being the sites have been used as a race and the rest of it. But also, has anyone paid? I mean, I don't know, but anyone thought of any 999 services if they want to go to a certain place? How will they go? Because I have been around. Obviously, I wasn't walking, and the ambulance or the fire services or the police won't be on the foot patrol when there's an emergency. But how will that affect? If, let's say if there's a fire in one particular street, how will the fire engine will get into that particular site or in that street?
Chair, if I may, it's worth pointing out. Yeah, it's worth pointing out, Chair, that the emergency services are consultees on any kind of legal traffic orders that are made within the council. So they will have been. Not saying there aren't issues operationally on the ground from time to time with various crews, but their systems need to update as well. So, for example, the ATM barriers are now on most sat-nav systems and things like Google Maps. Other mapping apps are available, of course. So that it's up to them to update their systems, but there'll be consultees on any changes as well. And that's obviously a very important part of how we go about things. Hope that clears that up.
What about the consultation? What method was used? Because all these questions have been asked to us this year. And what method was used for a consultation? And second, was the Hindu temple management committee and the Makkah Mosque management committee was part of the consultation process?
We could certainly check that with highways and see exactly what was on it. There certainly should have been, Chair. Yeah.
Yeah. The concern obviously is that in case at the moment we are in lockdown, and at the moment the mosque, for example, is they're only allowed to have maximum of 30 people. On the Friday prayers, as you and I and the rest of the communities are aware, we get more than 1,000 people in each Friday prayer. So what's going to happen then? As the highway had any thought or consideration for these two crucial and important communities of our area?
That's a further, Chair. That's a further conversation we can have with highways, like I've said.
Can we be part of that discussion as a people? Because as I said, it's affecting our residents, especially those who are living, who live at the Burley Lodges, Autumns, Alexandra Road, when they are, and the local businesses as well. I no doubt that you might have picked it up as well, but I have been passing them over to your side. So anyway, that's something that I think we need to have a more discussion and see if we can find a way to have a sensible sort of approach. Not only Leeds, but also where I live, we're having same problems. If I'm on Scott Road and I need to go to Chapeldown Road, I have to go all the way around. So when we talk about the clean air zones, I'm not sure if that's working or if that's going in favor or if that's going against the local community. So I think all these things needs to be taken on board. But as I said, we're not the only one. London is having similar sort of problem, and the other part of the country are having similar sort of problem. So, but we are more smarter, Neil. So I'm sure we'll find a way around. Can we now move on? Is there anybody else wants to say anything? Such a nice people you guys are. Can we now move on to the item 7 minutes of the previous meeting? Can someone move it if it's a true record?
Move it, Chair.
Second. Thank you, Neil. Can we now move on to item 8, please? Sorry, my screen's gone off. Is that you, Mercia?
Yes, so good evening, everybody. We'll now cover the finance report, and I'd like to start with page 3, paragraph 17, which is the committee wellbeing budget position. This has actually had to be amended slightly from what is actually shown on your papers due to a technical issue that we've had with a previous project that was actually agreed for capital funding, and it turned out when we looked at the actual items we were funding, it was community development and not capital items. So we've had to take that money from the wellbeing budget and put it back into the capital budget. So currently that stands at £1,044.09, pending the next page. So if you turn over to page 4, everybody, and table 1, you will see the projects. These are all the projects which have been agreed by the committee this year. However, what I want to tell you is, unfortunately, 3 of them have had to return the funding because they're unable to operate due to COVID-19. First of all, if you look at line 8, which is the Eat Well Cafe, we originally reprofiled this in the summer in the hope that they may be able to start operations. Of course, that's not been possible. The Little London Community Centre remains closed and that cafe is not able to operate this year. Therefore, the remaining funding, which is £6,688, will now be returned, as long as you're okay with that, to our wellbeing pot for the committee. Similarly, on line 15, the Wellbeing Group for Women, the Benno Group, have been unable to meet at the Woodsley Centre. The Woodsley Centre remains closed. This group is mostly fairly elderly ladies, some of whom are not all that well. So they've not been able to meet at all, unfortunately, this year. So therefore, the £4,000 that was allocated to them will also return to the committee. And above that, on line 11, the Mums Time to Shine project, which we had reprofiled due to a later start, did actually try to start. Unfortunately, that didn't really work out. So they have asked to return the money to the pot and actually have another think about how they might run that next year. So that actually brings the position up to a entirely different figure. The committee will then have £14,043 in the wellbeing pot, which is a totally different sort of thing altogether. Everybody all right with that one? So if we move on to the COVID-19 position, these were the original pots that the committee had, if you recall, of £10,000 per ward. Currently, the position for the overall committee is that there's £5,808.95 remaining in that. Little London and Woodhouse has £1,283 left. Headingley and Hyde Park, £3,170 remaining, and Wheatwood, £1,355 remaining. So moving on now to delegated decisions. Since the last Inner North West Consultative Committee, which was on the 24th of September, the following projects were approved by DDN. The Leeds City Academy Youth Worker Support for £3,000.81, and the October half-term art camp, which was a small grant of £500. So should we now move on to the new applications for funding that have come into the committee, which I did circulate to all members last week. So I hope everybody's had a chance to have a look at those. The first one then we have here, the Christmas Camp Extravaganza, which has come in from Art Camp UK. The total project cost is £3,025, but the updated ask from the committee is actually only £700. We had an email this week from John Wiltshire to say that that was all he required. This is a Christmas themed event for 3 days with arts, craft and music and Santa and sculpture. It's going to be held at Shire Oak Primary School, who have been helping the group identify children who would most benefit from attending. So that's the first one, and the ask there is £700. Do you wish to take them in turn, Chair, or do them all at the end.
If you can if you can run by all of them, and then
All
obviously
of them.
if any member wants to come in between, and if you just raise your hand, and then we can.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, the second project is the home learning project, which has come in from Northwest One Family Services. The total project cost is £3,000 and the ask of the committee is £1,500. This covers Little London and Woodhouse and Headingley and Hyde Park area, and it is actually to cover resource packs which will go out to families and will cover 6 weeks of home learning activities for children. These resource packs will then be quarantined after the 6 weeks and actually then taken to a different family. All this has been taken into account of. So that's £1,500 for that one. The next one is called the Chatterbox Language Pack. This is also coming from Northwest One Family Services. The total project cost is £1,500 and the ask of the Inner Northwest is £750. £750 has also been requested from the Inner West Ward, because some of this covers the Kirkstall area and the boundary between the two committees. So these are resource packs for children's language skills, mainly for children under 5 with English not as a first language, and the funding will provide 20 packs. The next project we have is called Nubian Noir. Hope you've actually read the application for this, because this is quite an interesting one. The total project cost is £1,570, and essentially this is about an event that will take place at the Kirkgate Market, and it is about promoting young entrepreneurs from BAME communities. So they will actually have stalls where they can show crafts that they've made, other things that they've been doing in the theme of the Nubian Noir, which is from actually the United States, celebrating that time. So it's a Christmas themed event at Kirkgate Market, which is obviously central Leeds, but the point of asking the committee is about encouraging young BAME entrepreneurs from our area. This has gone to other areas as well. I know the funding has been secured from the Inner North East, for example. I also know that it's been questioned by some of the other committees. So in terms of splitting it literally ward by ward, that could come out at about £200, but obviously it's entirely up to yourselves whether you might want to award a little more to make sure that the event actually takes place. And then finally, a late paper which I put together is actually a commissioned project on mental health first aid. This is a project that actually came out originally from Wheatwood Ward, from ward meetings that we'd had in Wheatwood with members of the community who had raised issues about increased mental health problems in the community. They were aware of more people feeling particularly very anxious and perhaps a lack of understanding and obviously long waiting lists to get into official mental health services. So from that, we actually had a meeting where we invited a provider to come and talk to us about mental health first aid training and what that actually involved and whether that could be appropriate for community representatives to take part in. And as a result of that, came to the conclusion that this would be something that the whole committee in all the ward areas could benefit from. So the cost of this would be for a 2-day mental health first aid training course where people would actually be then classed as being a mental health first aider would be £1,500 for up to 12 participants, so potentially 4 from each ward. But also there is another course which is about mental health awareness where up to 10 participants can go for £350. So actually the total cost if we did both would be £1,850 across all 3 wards. And that is all the applications, Chair.
Thank you, Mary. Any questions with regards to any of these applications? Abigail?
Thank you, Marcia. The second to the last application, the one on the stall in the market, what's the name of the organising it again?
It's Cultural Arts Heritage Circle.
We're meant to have the same event in May of this year.
Right.
I don't know if they're the same, because I do know we gave some money for, and it was also for BAME entrepreneurs, and it was meant to, the date I believe was the 23rd of May, and we went into lockdown, but money was given for that to happen. So for me, if it's the same company, that didn't happen. So what's happened to the funds? And they're asking for another.
I'm just having a look through the papers that I know I circulated to see if there is any reference to an event in May, which I can't see.
What's the contact name on there?
The contact name.
Because the cultural heritage, it just rings a bell, and I actually remember writing and to Mice, and we donated some money for BAME entrepreneurs in the Kirkgate Market, 23rd of May this year. And it will be a name.
I know the lady's first name is Dion. I'm not sure.
She's the one. That's it, Dion.
Okay.
She's the same person. We gave money in May.
Okay.
All we need to know is to ask what happened to the event in May.
Okay.
If it didn't hold, money was given definitely from our ward to promote that. What have they done with it?
Right. I can go back and ask that question and come back to everybody by email if that's okay with everybody, Chair.
Yeah.
I know that the last event, is it Dion? Is it Edwards? It was there was quite an extensive article in the Yorkshire Evening Post about it, and actually a lot of the successes from it. I think, yeah, good to get some kind of tangible information back, but what I kind of read and heard, like, it did go really well.
Yeah.
So it did take place then, the May event.
I think so. Yeah, I definitely.
Sorry.
I'll send around the article from the Yorkshire Evening Post.
Oh, did it actually happen
So,
in May? How could it have? We were in lockdown.
Maybe it was an older article. I'm not. I'll send it round.
Okay.
This is from memory, so I'm not too sure, but yeah.
Unless it was done online or something. I don't know. Right. Okay.
Okay, just double check. We don't mind supporting, but I just need to know that we're not doubling up and nothing has happened. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once we get the facts, and then obviously we don't have to make a decision right now. We can do it via email to all the members, and then obviously if you say yes, we'll go ahead, and if you nod your head,
yeah.
So
do you want to make a decision?
Let's move on with other applications now, please. Unless if you're
Chair, can I come in, please?
Sorry?
Could I come in on this one, please?
Sure, please.
I just want to express the motives behind this, I think, are fantastic, and in principle I do think it's something we should be supporting. I am concerned about the date of it, and running an event in Kirkgate Market while we're still in Tier 3, and we should really be doing essential shopping only, and the provision to move online I really can't see as being satisfactory. I'd rather they were saying they would do something in the new year with these funds when we've got a better environment than to say run this online. And I don't want that to stand in the way of the fact that I think it is a very important project, and it is something that should be supported, but I am wondering whether Saturday the 19th of December right now is actually appropriate at all. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, point taken on board. Anybody else?
Could I do a brief come in that I think I found the article on the Yorkshire Post now, which I'll send around.
From the dumper.
I think a lot of them are food-based stalls and organisations, so it would kind of fit in with. I mean, I completely appreciate your comments. Yeah, so I think some of the food stuff would fit with some of the COVID restrictions.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Are we all? Yes, Neil.
Oh, sorry. I think you're about to say something that probably similar along the lines of what I was about to say, Chair.
No. Yes. No. I'd rather
well,
hear.
I was going to say, we've obviously Abigail's asked some important questions, but are we generally speaking minded to fund these 4? Or is it 5?
5.
5. And can we afford to do so? Obviously, with the one, the third one with a few fourth one with a few queries about rather. Are we good to fund these? I think. Is there sufficient funds?
Yeah, you have £14,000.
Yeah.
Are we all supporting these applications? And if yes, I'll. Yeah. I'll give you 5 seconds. If no one says anything, I'll take it as a yes then, yeah?
No, Al had her hands up.
No,
I had my hands up to say I supported them.
All right, yeah, I support them as well, Javi. We just needed to check. The one that Jonathan has just spoken about is just to double check, but they're all very good proposals.
I'll do the same protocol. Anyone against, and I'll give you 5 seconds. And if you don't say anything, or if you want to say anything, please do so.
Chair, we could use the yes and no buttons in the participant box if you wish.
I'm only following the protocol from.
Oh, okay, fine.
So in that case, yeah, we all support all these applications. So swiftly, if you can move on to the next item, then please.
Okay, so the next part of the report at the bottom of page 6 is the Youth Activities Fund provision. This has not changed since last time, so the remaining balance is £422.60 for that. We are still waiting on a couple of those projects to actually, one of them needs the Silver Command Group from the council to be allowed to run, and the Found Fiction is still trying to see whether they can actually do that in the new year. So potentially some of that funding may come back, but we have been in discussion with them on an ongoing basis, Chair. Okay. So going down to the bottom of page 7, the small grants and skips pot currently has a balance of £1,227.13. And then if we move on to page 9, which is the capital budget, the balance that's shown here is £13,498. Now, obviously, the £1,800 that had been allocated to the Howden Planters project is actually going to come back into that pot because of the actual items that we were being asked to fund, as distinct from the HAT pot, which has only just recently been defined. So the balance is now £15,298.32 in the capital for the Inner North West. And going down to the SIL budget, we still have £40,778.62 in that pot as well. And that concludes the finance report.
Good. Any questions? Any comments? Thank you. In that case, shall we move on to item 9 then, please?
So this is the update report, Chair. And really, I just want to highlight, I think, 3 paragraphs of this. First of all, the update by theme, the children and families theme. The children and families group recently had a meeting on the 13th of November and discussed the proposals for a youth summit for the Inner North West to be held via Zoom. And it does say on here early March, but having looked at the committee date in March and the need to take the proposals to that committee, I do actually think that may be the last week of February, in fact. So the subgroup will meet again in January to discuss and plan out how we actually take that forward and who does what and all that kind of thing. The other decision or recommendation that was discussed by that subgroup was about the actual funding, the YAF funding, and the proposal is to not have a funding round for the YAF funding next year. As everybody is aware, this year the funding rounds have been very problematic because of COVID and actually not being able to run a number of projects. But also, I think we would like to be able to use the funding to actually take forward the proposals that come out of the Youth Summit and the engagement with all our schools across all 3 wards and also youth groups, and actually then be able to put them into action from the summer onwards in our wards.
Excellent. Any questions? Any comments? Yes, Neil.
Thanks, Chair. I think the youth summits we've had in the past have been excellent, and I really recommend councillors going in and joining in with them. I'm just wondering though, we're sort of in quite a rapidly evolving world with all the news about vaccines and whatnot. Would it be a case if we sort of revisit this in early in the new year to see where we might be by that point, and whether we could look at being able to have a youth summit with people actually present in person? Marcia, I don't know. I mean, Ramon wants to go. I always like listening to young people, and in that one sentence, I've made myself sound very old, haven't I? But they are great, and they're really worthwhile for us as a council to hear what people have to say. But could we perhaps, I don't know, keep this under review and look at it early in the new year? I don't know what colleagues think. I don't want to not have one, but an in-person one might be great.
I mean, my understanding is that there's been an agreement with the chair made at the Chairs Forum that these would all happen in the new year between kind of January and March. Okay. And really, obviously, if we're looking at taking the recommendations to the committee in March, it needs to be kind of February. But that's not to say that we couldn't do something else in person with young people in the summer. I think that would be something, and that was certainly something that Children and Families Group also were looking at, like engagement event, neighbourhood events, you know, with youth groups, with schools and so on, and build on that relationship with those schools as well to make that.
Well, that sounds a great approach.
I support Neil's view on this. We made those decisions obviously in the context of what Marcy's just said, and bearing in mind that we didn't have the information that we have today, that we appear to have light at the end of the tunnel. So I would, in terms of our energies, resources, funds, etc., I would much rather in principle be supporting, you know, as much in-person engagement as we can.
Yeah.
Can I comment on this? So one of the reasons why they're usually January to March is because schools are less willing to send kids over towards the end of the year because they're often exams. The trouble is at the moment is we're not 100% sure what is happening with exams. The government's saying they're still going ahead, but I would be amazed if there wasn't some sort of turn nearer the time. So if kind of we are at the point at the end of the school year where kids are vaccinated and they're not having exams, then I think, yeah, it'd be really good to have an in-person meeting. If the government are forcing exams to go ahead, then I suspect that schools would be less willing to send kids at that part of the year. So it's difficult to say at the moment.
Okay. Anybody else? You have been really good today for some reason. I think you're all tired. So many meetings, back-to-back meetings all day today. So can we now move on to the any other business? No. In that case, date and the time of next meeting. Is that Andy?
It is me, Chair. It will be March the 10th. No, sorry, March the 11th, 2021 at 6 p.m.
Right. But that just to say that even though we will be meeting in March, just for the members of the public's information, even though during the lockdown, this community committee has been meeting on a regular basis to discuss things such as the some of the services, those people who required our services during the hard time, and also we do meet when and where it's required. So even though we have 4 main meetings in a year, but we do regularly meet as elected members.
Yes, I'd also like to say that there are subcommittee meetings that take place. For instance, we've had environment subcommittee meeting on graffiti, particularly looking at the Hyde Park area, and we will be having another one of them in January with a number of different people and different agencies and organisations and council departments. And we've also had quite a number of meetings about the noise issue with Leeds Antisocial Behaviour, the police, the universities, the environment team and others. So it's just to reassure anyone who might be looking from the member of the public that councillors have been very busy having meetings on Zoom in distance, as well as the community committee, while we've had lockdown and are unable to meet in person, as well as promoting food donations and collecting food and doing a whole lot of other things.
Yeah, also at the final comment, I would say that we, all 9 of us, are easy access. If a member of public, I mean, we have been dealing with the casework over the last 8 or 9 months. So if anybody's watching us now, you can easily get hold of us either by email or by phone calls or whichever method you prefer. Unfortunately, we can't see you face to face because of the restrictions. But nevertheless, if there's anything important that you need our services, we're available. But on those good notes, can I thank all of you for joining us and all those members of the public who are watching us. And I think on the apologies, did you mention about Jonathan Bentley? I can't remember that he did send his apology.
Yes, Chair. Councillor Bentley sent apologies prior to the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will be seeing you all again, no doubt. In fact, for us, some of us, it'll be tomorrow.
Thanks, folks. Bye.
Bye.